Hello beautiful people, welcome to your practical application of astrology. I am outdoors, so I do apologize for any noises you might be hearing in the background. I am near the water, so that's probably what you can hear in the background. But I just felt this was the right place to record what I want to talk about, being back in a familiar ground, back in Slovakia with my family, and yeah, making the trip back over the 3-day period, my crazy flights from the States. And this is obviously all happening right before the full moon in Aries, which is a experience. I mean, this video is recorded on Friday, but it will be coming out on Saturday because I'm recording this in the afternoon, and I don't think I'll have a time to post it tonight. So anyway, guys, there's been a lot going on, as I'm sure there's been a lot going on for everybody else with all these crazy energies we've been experiencing, especially the grand cardinal cross that was present during this full moon in Aries, which was not an eclipse but might have as well been because with everything else that's going on up there, I mean, especially Pluto on 29 degrees, you can't make that up, and coming into this opposition with Mars, which will be on and off ongoing for the next 6-7 months. So good on us, you know. So anyway, yes, it's been definitely interesting coming back to Matrix, coming back to normal reality after spending 1 month in a Piscean vortex, which is how me and my solstice Marissa from Growing the Flow named the place of heart, the farm where I experienced the 1 month of magical times. And yeah, now being back into the reality, back into Virgo land from Pisces land. It's quite a difference, I'm not gonna lie. So anyway, so what am I going to talk about in here? Obviously, as I'm outdoors, I don't have anything ready with regards to channeled message or anything. And hand on heart, while I was in US, I didn't do any channeling. I wrote one channeled message right at the beginning for myself, and that was it. I did write one since I arrived in Slovakia, but it was a personal message. So I am slowly going to be getting into a groove of how I was making things before, possibly maybe changing things. You know, like it's always good to shuffle things around. Me and my solstice just did first IG live yesterday, which was interesting. Obviously a good new experience. So anyway, I think that probably a lot of us are experiencing a lot of past energies, let's just say, resurfacing of the past unresolved energies. I can say that that's definitely been the case for me in a Piscean vortex land. A lot of things have been stirred up to the surface, and and are here to be processed and healed and integrated. Things that I thought were already healed, but obviously they were not. So what I'm tapping into here with regards to my own experience and collective experience, because obviously everything is connected, my experience, your experience, collective experience is all connected, part of the human collective. And I really feel that this time, especially with this full moon in Aries, which was not an eclipse, but it was the opposition to the eclipse, and the next moon in Aries will be an eclipse as well, the final one on 29th of March, right before Neptune moves into the sign of Aries. I believe Neptune will be on 29 degrees at the time. So yeah, it is all coming to its final crescendo, especially as we have Pluto moving into the sign of Aquarius for the third and final time, literally 1 month from now. So what I'm feeling is that everything that is not in alignment with this Aquarian frequency, it's coming up to the surface to be resolved. And no, we don't have to wait for another lifetime for the karma to come around, or, you know, like few years or whatever for the cycles to be coming around and stuff. No, it's happening very quickly. You know, it's all coming up right here, right now, for us to resolve the energies that you know, as I mentioned, many cases, many times before, are not even ours. It's not like you were born with them, you know, uniquely they belong to you. You know, in this case, I mean, like things like guilt, shame, you know, whatever, this low vibrational frequency, fear, not good enough, low self-esteem, you know, lack mentality, all these kind of things, right? None of us were born with this as like, oh, it's all coming with me. You know, I mean, we you know, we were born into these frequencies, but it's not like mine or yours or anyone's. But obviously now we are dealing with them, so we have taken on the responsibility of being incarnate into the physical body, part of which is inheriting all this stuff, good, bad, ugly, all of it, you know, but a lot of gifts too, let's just not forget. And now we with this new level of consciousness, because the humanity and human collective consciousness, level of human collective consciousness has risen and evolved since you were around last time, I was around last time, whichever incarnation that was. We have many more tools available. We have many more tools available to us to tackle these energies these energies in a different way. And of course, while I was on a farm, I was sharing some ideas, you know, and some musings and some observations with regards to, you know, like, what is this Aquarian and age going to look like, you know, these communities, and, you know, like, how are we going to tackle all these shadow aspects of ourselves without, you know, projecting them onto each other and recreating the same experiences, outcomes, the same dynamics technically. So yeah, I think, you know, obviously, as I keep saying, you know, and I need to walk my talk here, we all have to start from ourselves, from within, right? So yeah, so during my stay in US on the farm, there were people around me, there are people in my proximity, in my environment. Some of them I got closer to than others. And yeah, and a lot of things were coming up, because as we know, once we start trusting people and got close to people, then yeah, then, you know, all sorts of aspects of ourselves that are normally not fully conscious to us or at the forefront of our mind become present and come out to play, to be seen and to be healed and understood, especially the aspects of ourselves we don't particularly like. And that's why in many cases we would say that, oh, I sabotage that, I self-sabotage that or something. But there is no such a thing, because it's all this, everything is just about healing, you know, like literally we all came here to contributes towards healing of that which is unhealed, of that which is out of balance. You know, we know that even with regards to physical ailment, we call it dis-ease. You know, we are not at ease. It's a disease. It's an imbalance. It's a you know, like extreme of whichever polarity, right? It's a dis-ease. So it's the same like with a relational pattern, for example. You know, like if there is an imbalance, it's kind of a dis-ease, right? It causes not ease, discomfort and stuff, and these dynamics, and it's quite interesting, because even though it was not a family constellation, it might have as well been family constellation where different players adopt different roles for people who are not present. You know, at least this is how it played out for me. I'm sure it played out for the people around me in a different way, and whatever they needed to experience through that experience was being experienced. But for me personally, you know, there was someone that embodied characteristics or certain dynamics from the past with regards to my romantic relationship, personal relationship, intimate relationship, and the wind is blowing, so it's like, okay, yeah, get it all out, you know, the swords, the thoughts, let's get it all out. So yeah, so this person accommodated these energies that are unhealed and stuck in time, which I thought that I healed, I thought that I overcame, but obviously I didn't. So the same dynamic, and you know, this is one of the things you can't make up, like how possibly a completely different person from a completely different background in a completely different environment can embody the same, you know, whatever, for the same energy to be present, for the same wounding to come up, in order for us to deal with it. In this case, myself, you know, in order for me to deal with something that is unresolved, something that is diseased, something that is imbalanced, that is stuck in time and needs to be healed, right? So this is, you know, just a small example without getting too personal, and obviously because there are other people involved, I have to honor that and respect that, because I don't have their permission. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But I feel that very likely, I mean, I don't think this is a unique situation to me or the people closest to me. I feel that a lot of us are experiencing these kind of dynamics where people, whether the same people or different people, are accommodating resurfacing of memories, even though, you know, these memories or patterns or energies or emotions, whatever, could be attached to completely different people, situations, circumstances, but the energy would be the same, and we would recognize that oh yeah, I dealt with this before, you know, this is something that still triggers me or makes me upset or makes me afraid or makes me whatever. And yeah, and then the question always is like, well, why am I experiencing this? You know, obviously, if I'm the creator of my reality, consciously or unconsciously, I am choosing this, I am creating this. So why I would be doing that? Why I would be doing that if there was no meaning and purpose in it? So then we have to dig deep. And I mean, Mercury already is in Scorpio, right? Venus already moved from Scorpio into the sign of Sagittarius, but she was in the sign of Scorpio for the full moon in Aries, 29 degrees she was. And in the grand water trine with Neptune and Mars, so the ruler of the south node trining the ruler of the north node, and the ruler of Saturn, which is the ruler of Pluto. I mean, which is also on 29 degrees because Venus had the closing sextile with Pluto on the day of the full moon in Aries on Thursday. So I mean, you can't make this up. You literally can't make this up, because what do we know here? Venus is the ruler of the south node. Where is the south node? Libra, relationships, right? And Venus was on 29 degrees of Scorpio. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. Pluto was on 29 degrees of Capricorn, and they were making an exact sextile, and Venus was closing to Pluto, which means that this is a preparation for the second conjunction this year, which will take place right after Mars stations retrograde in a sign of Leo, which is where Venus was retrograde last year. And I call that process mistaken identity. You know, we were discovering like, oh, is this really who I am? Is this my authentic expression? Is this my purpose? What is it? That was in summer 2023. You can go back to August 2023, what was resurfacing for you, right? And now Mars is going to go retrograde in Leo, and Mars is now ruler of the north node. Back then Venus was Venus was already the ruler of the south node. So we were learning about, okay, what is actually coming from the external that we embodied, that we took on our plate, you know, whether in this incarnation, from this incarnation, different incarnation, it doesn't even matter, you know. The point is, now it's on my plate. What am I doing with it? You know, it doesn't matter who started it, whose fault was it, who created this dynamic. None of that matters, because we're playing with right here, right now, okay? You know, it could have started a million years ago with whoever, but the point is, it's on my plate now. It's showing up in my reality now. And if I don't want to keep recreating the same experience and, you know, the same suffering in a sense, then what am I going to do with it? Because unless I change this energy that I'm interacting with, because obviously I must have chosen the energy, otherwise it wouldn't be showing up on my plate, right? Then yeah, if I don't do something with it, it's just gonna keep coming back, right? I mean, the energy cannot be destroyed. It can be just transmuted, changed, right? It's transformed into something else. So yeah, so where was I? So technically that's what's been showing up, that's what's been coming out. And you know, again, going back to the point question, why is this happening, right? Because I can go into victimhood mentality and go, oh, not again, why is this happening to me again, why am I so unlucky, you know, like how come? And you know, like all this work I have done in the past 2 years, how is this possible, whatever. And actually that is exactly the point, because back then, 2 years ago, when similar energies were present in my life, I didn't have the level of consciousness I have now, neither did that person that I was interacting with at the time, and we couldn't deal with the energy in the way that I have the potential, or maybe this other person has the potential to deal with now, you know, because the baton always gets passed on and the energy needs to be transformed. You know, this is why so many of us are dealing with the same things, right? You know, with the same problems, with the same dynamics, you know, whether it's the financial problems, the relationship problems, self-esteem problems, self-worth problems, you know, any of these things, any of these challenges. I mean, this is not a problem that is unique to one person or one group of people, you know, like the spirit doesn't discriminate, right? So it doesn't matter, you know. So that's what I mean. So many of us incarnate at this time, we are all dealing with these energies that are as old as time, you know. They go back to Atlantean age, maybe even before that, you know. They go back long while back, right? And now we're dealing with these energies, the energies that are no longer in alignment with where we're going. You know, they are the energies of the 29 degrees of Capricorn and 29 degrees of Scorpio, Venus, you know, as the ruler of the south node at the time of the full moon in Aries, which is very significant because we know the new moon in Aries was the one that changed everything. It was the one that took place on April 8th, right after the Sun North Node conjunction, and it happened in a new phase with the North Node, and it happened in an exact conjunction with Chiron. And we know that Chiron was once again conjuncting this this lunation, this full moon. So what's going on here? So obviously there is all this wounding of a humanity that is unresolved from the past, that is preventing us from stepping into this new cycle. Mars is in a sign of Cancer, and that's all about this changing a new identity, you know, reconnecting with the spirit, coming back to ourselves, to the true essence of who we really are. And with the trine to Venus and Neptune at the time, I mean, it's still obviously within a degree, but Venus is no longer in Scorpio, but at the time of the full moon in Aries, it was, you know, it was the case. There was a grand water trine in the sky. There is a flooding of emotion. There is a flooding of emotion because emotion is energy in motion, right? The messages, the messengers that needs to be felt, that needs to be transmuted. And how else is it going to happen other than in interaction with other people that are going to make us feel something, you know, whatever it is, good, bad, whatever, you know, angry, upset, love, whatever it is, you know, it usually involves another person to poke your buttons, you know, bring things up to the surface. So we can feel these things that we agreed to work on, you know, in this life, in this incarnation. And we all working on these things, but we working on them differently, you know, because we are all unique expression of the source, and we all having a unique experience. Our own life, you know, it's unique. Each person's life is slightly different. Nobody is exactly the same. Nobody is experiencing reality the same way, right? We are all unique. So that's why we all have different tools, and we have different approach to how to tackle these you know, these things that are unresolved. So yeah, so this is literally what's been going on in my life, and it became fully illuminated to me on the full moon in Aries, thanks to my soul sis that we exchange a very deep conversations with. She's like my mirror that I can speak to, that talks back to me, you know, because I don't talk back to myself always. I am sorry if you can hear the wind. But I guess, you know, perhaps spirit wants me to slow down and focus on what I'm actually saying. So yeah, so it really became fully illuminated to me. And yeah, the question is, why is this happening, you know, and how can I approach this situation and these challenges that I'm personally interacting with that are not unique, and I'm sure many other people are interacting with in a different way. So then they, you know, don't come around exactly in the same way. You know, it's like literally 2 years ago, I was a different person. We lived as a society. Time was different. Everything was different. You know, planets were in different place. 2 years ago, the nodes were even in a different signs, you know. So yeah, so we have moved on, we've grown, we evolved. I've evolved. I'd like to think so. Anyway, I have more tools available to me. So now spirit presents the same energy to me, the same wounding, and it says, okay, now what you're gonna do with it, with what you got available to you now. And this is literally how it goes with every incarnation. This is literally the process. We come back to tackle these unresolved problems, these energies that are stuck in time, that are out of balance, from a higher level of consciousness, with new tools that humanity accumulated through evolution over the time, and us as a unique expression of the source accumulated through, you know, genetic mixing, you know, like, because we have more ancestors available to us to gather wisdom from, let's just say, and stuff. So yeah, so anyway, I hope this makes sense. But if you are experiencing some crazy times in your life right now, you know, when things are resurfacing and you might be thinking like, how the hell is this happening to me again? Or why is this happening to me again? Or I thought that I dealt with this, or, you know, I thought that, you know, like I healed this energy, and why am I feeling this way again? Or why am I reacting in the same way again? Or why do I want to react the same way? Or why do I feel the same fears I felt, whatever, 20 years ago or something? Or I'm recognizing patterns that I observed from my mom or dad or something. So if you are observing any of this, don't worry, you are right on time, because this is literally what is happening, I would say, for probably most of us, if not everyone, because this is the 29 degrees. This is the Pluto on 29 degrees of Capricorn moving into Aquarius next month. And it's saying, no, we cannot take this energy with us. You know, we cannot take this energy with us into the age of Aquarius. We are creating a brand new direction. We are becoming a new expression of the source, you know, with the Mars in Cancer moving into Leo next month, and then moving back into Cancer. in January until April. So it's going to move back into Leo after the eclipses in spring, right? So yeah, so it's time, you know, and it's going to come around faster, you know, like in my case, I waited 2 years to have this experience again, you know, like I'm sure that if I don't resolve it this time, it's going to come around faster, you know, it's not going to be 2 years, it's going to be much faster. So that's what I mean. So, you know, like we all are having the opportunity to close these old cycles, you know, whether they're yours or not, it doesn't even matter. Obviously in this lifetime we are embodying a lot of it, you know, but it doesn't matter where it started and where it came from, and that is the Capricorn, you know, is that taking responsibility. Because once again, it doesn't matter where it came from. If it's lying on your doorstep or lying on your plate, you're the one that has to deal with it, right? And we can complain all we want and feel sorry for ourselves, but you know, it wouldn't be on my plate if I didn't ask for it, or if I didn't choose it, or by, you know, other choices, I didn't end up in a house where this plate was presented to me or something. So this is where, you know, the only way to get to the Aquarius is through Capricorn. The only way to break free from the trauma of the past that is keeping us hostage, you know, this sense of alienation from human experience and inability, alienation from one another and ourselves as a, you know, as an entity, because of the lack of authenticity and believe that we can be authentic and we can be ourselves, you know, who we are. The only way to get there is through Capricorn. And obviously Leo is preceded by Cancer. So it's about this inner safety and security. So in my personal experience, what am I experiencing now is this, I'm observing how, you know, I am being, you know, just like I was saying about other people in my environment, that, you know, I was like, I am getting triggered because this person is being needy or something. And now I'm observing that in myself. You know, I can see my inner child being needy, wanting validation, wanting reassurance and stuff. And every time I want to say something to someone that in a sense could be or could not be passive or not passive, it could be conscious or unconscious way of manipulating someone. Like I say something to you and then I expect you to say it back to me, right? But actually now I recognize every time that I want to say something to someone that I wish they would say back to me, I say it to my inner child, because that's the aspect of me that really needs to hear that, right? So that's what I mean. So this is about the Cancer, the creating the inner sense of safety and security, nurturing ourselves and becoming aware and okay with who we are. And then we can feel okay with the external world, Capricorn, you know, and create boundaries when necessary and be flexible with the boundaries. And that allows for a wider range of flexibility, and also it makes authenticity much more accessible, because when we embrace and accept who we are and make ourselves, you know, feel accepted within and feel safe and secure to be who we are, because we don't judge ourselves anymore, then it's just like, well, why would I judge it? Why would I not allow myself to be who I am, you know? So anyway, this probably doesn't make any sense, but you know, I'm just trying to articulate how I feel. And you know, also still going through all these transitions, because Slovakia is a transition for me. I came here to go by the books, to do what needs to be done in order to sorry, I have to keep pausing because people are walking around, you know, they jogging and stuff. I'm in a forest. So anyway, so I am here to get all the paperwork submitted to get my citizenship back, my Slovakian citizenship back, talking about coming back to the roots and reclaiming the past identities to be able to close the cycles and all the rest of it. And also preparing for my upcoming trip back to Mexico, which I was not expecting. It's not something I was planning when I was leaving Mexico back in April. But yes, somehow this is where I was being directed, and based on what just took place recently in the US, it might make sense, but it's just the one layer of it, why it would make sense. And it might, you know, like turn up that it has nothing to do with one another. But either way, I have learned, especially in the past couple of years, to completely trust the spirit and go with the flow of my guidance and just see what happens, you know, and usually somehow it always works out. So, you know, who am I to think that I know the answers to everything where I don't? So anyway, guys, so this is technically what I got, you know, and there is so much more emotion behind it, and I can feel it on my chest, you know, literally I believe the lungs are the grief, right? And I can really feel it, like I can really feel it sitting on my chest. And I know that this grief is not just connected to my recent experience, which was actually not very griefful. It was not a grievance, but you know, the after effects of that contain some sorrow. But I know that this grief goes all the way back. It goes back to 2 years ago, but it goes back further than that. And I'm sure it goes back to different lifetimes. And also is the grief of humanity, the grief that comes from us losing ourselves, us forgetting who we really are and forgetting our connection to spirit. And again, it doesn't get lost on me that during the new moon in Aries solar eclipse in April, Mars was in Pisces, and now during this full moon in Aries, not an eclipse, but you know, still, Mars is in Cancer, and Mars also will be in Cancer, I'm pretty sure, for the solar eclipse in Aries at the end of March, because Mars will be re-entering Leo in April. I'm pretty sure about that one. So yeah, so it's interesting that the rule of the North Node, even though by March 2025 Mars will no longer be the rule of the North Node, because the North Node will be in Pisces, so Neptune will be the rule of the North Node, and that the eclipse season will be post-Neptune and North Node conjunction, so there will be definitely a reset of a cycle with regards to this culmination, endings, but also reconnection with the spirit, spirituality, embracing the aspects of ourselves we've forgotten, because this is the only way to have a different experience, to become conscious of who we really are and consciously co-create with the spirit, because then there is no limitation. There is no limitation to the three-dimensional reality and the matrix, you know, the definition of reality that we co-created together. But it's no longer working. It's no longer working. It feels restricted. Like, most people are unhappy and just complaining, and I can definitely see it in my own family every single time I come. I was just joking that one thing I can definitely rely on and trust, you know, that will remain the same is my family. Always the same dynamics. So yeah, so this is something that makes me remember that, oh yeah, you know, I remember this aspect of myself. So anyway, so this is technically what we are all processing, I feel, especially now with the after effects of the full moon, because the full moon is an illumination, so a lot of things became illuminated and conscious to us and are being remembered, and we are becoming aware of them through the emotions, through the flooding, you know. And I feel that probably a lot of people, you know, based on whatever, like, or due to whatever reason, whether it is the natural disasters we've been experiencing recently, and like I said, the hurricane Helen, I believe it was not far from where I was in the US, only 2 hours away, 2.5 hours away in Asheville. I was staying near Knoxville, so yeah, so you know, all this flooding of emotions that is being created either through external prompts, you know, whether it's the nature, whether it's the geopolitical situation, whether it's other people in our life, that then create this remembrance, this memory of that which needs healing, which is stuck in time, because everything that gets triggered is usually, well, it's, I would say always, it is not just coming from the present moment. It's something that is much older than that, because for anything to get triggered, the ammunition has to already exist within us. So that's why I feel with, you know, with Mars being in these water signs throughout these Aries eclipses and now Aries full moon, the new direction that we're heading into has a lot to do with us emotionally connecting with ourselves, because a lot of us are just walking dead, you know. I'm sorry to say that, but how many people really feel alive and joyous and passionate about their life? I mean, like I said, the best, and I don't have to go far, the easiest example for me to look at is my own family and the continuous suffering of that experience, because nothing changes, because nobody wants to take responsibility and change anything. And maybe I don't see the full picture. I'm sure I don't, because, you know, because obviously I'm personally involved in this picture. So yeah, you know, and this is just one example. Like, how many people really feel that they are living their life in alignment with their purpose? How many people even know what is their purpose? And how many people even know who they are, you know? So this is what I feel with this square the grand cardinal cross that we just experienced during the full moon, but the square that is still present between the sun. Actually, let me think about it. Yes, Mars Pluto opposition and the sun is still squaring the two. Yeah, so the T square is still present with sun now at the precipice. And sun is now ending its journey through Libra, because sun is going to enter into Scorpio next week. So this is the Gemini decan of Libra, where sun is. And we know that Jupiter is retrograde in the sign of Gemini, ruled by Mercury, currently in Scorpio, ruled by Pluto. So it's all going back to these 29 degrees. 29 degrees of Capricorn, Saturn and Neptune still retrograde in the sign of Pisces, which is saying that all the sorrows and unhealed wounds of the past, of the humanity, are coming up to the surface because they need to be healed. Because they are preventing us from having a different experience. Because these old memories, these old emotions, they are recreating the past, you know, just like I described with my experience now recently. It just reminded me of what was, you know. Yes, I was present, but at the same time it was like the timelines were crossing, and it was like, oh my god, it's the same story repeating itself. So the past will keep projecting itself into the future through the present until it's resolved. It has to be resolved in a present moment, otherwise it will just be copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. You know, we just keep reliving and recreating the same reality until we become present with these aspects of the reality we don't enjoy necessarily, which is not comfortable, absolutely, and do something different with them. So I'm sorry, it's cold and my nose is running. So yeah, you know, so that is technically what I've got, you know, half an hour in. I'm not gonna make this necessarily long, but yeah, it's just little musings, you know, of my return to Europe, to my roots, and having an opportunity to slowly start digesting and integrating what just took place, and trying to understand it from a different perspective to how I understood it. Not the same situation, obviously it was a different situation, but how I understood these emotions and this grief and sorrow in a different way, and deal with it differently. And most and foremost, try not to judge it or run away from it or want it to be done, because I can definitely observe that, how I just want it to be done. I just want it to be behind me, and I just want it to be over. Like, oh, I just want to move on already, you know, like be somewhere different, feel something different. But that is exactly the problem, you know, because we never want to deal with something that is uncomfortable. Most of us anyway, I can't speak for everyone, but definitely myself. We don't want to deal with what is uncomfortable. We just want to distract ourselves or focus on something different that is more pleasant, and then it doesn't get resolved, right? It doesn't get resolved. It just keep coming back around, you know, again in the future, having the same experience with someone else under different circumstances, but it feels the same way, and it leaves us feeling the same way, and it brings to the surface the same amount of sorrow, grief, and whatever else is involved, you know, guilt, shame, abandonment, loss, betrayal, you know, all these nice qualities that us as a humanity have been re-experiencing lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And now it has to come to the end, you know. It has to come to the end because it is not in alignment. It is not in alignment. We cannot feel disempowered and empowered at the same time, you know, so we have to choose. Mercury being in a sign of Scorpio, it is about a choice. Am I choosing to feel empowered or disempowered going forward? Am I choosing to see this situation, identify this situation as something that is making me feel victimized, or something that is opportunity for healing to make me feel stronger, more resilient and more empowered, right? Because this is also what Jupiter going retrograde through the sign of Gemini is working on. It is making us to reevaluate all these stories we are attached to, all these stories that are imprinted in our subconscious mind, for most part of it, that just keep coming back around and around and around. And now with Mercury going through the sign of Scorpio, is making us to dig deep, and Mercury is impacting Jupiter going retrograde. So again, what have we observed since end of May, when Jupiter moved into the sign of Gemini? Because now Jupiter is going backwards, and it's going to regurgitate all of it, and it's going to say, okay, look again. Now with Mercury being in a sign of Scorpio, dig deeper and look at the true shadow of this situation, like what's hiding behind it that you don't want to see, right? And we are just about to enter into Scorpio season, right, next week. So hallelujah, you know, there will be even more of that coming up. However, the other aspect of that is the veil is very thin, so we have all this help available to us from our ancestors. Doesn't get lost on me being in the place of my roots, and I'm actually flying to Mexico after the Day of Dead and, you know, the remembrance of, you know, those that are gone. So I'm gonna be here for that. So again, doesn't get lost on me that, you know, the timing of things, and this is the opportunity, you know, to ask for help. You know, I'm not sure if this is the right thing, but to be aware that our ancestors, they are here with us. You know, they are vouching, you know, they went through whatever they've gone through, so we can have the tools and don't have to go through what they've gone through. We can have the tools to make better choices, to have a different experience. So everything they've gone through is available for us to tap into, you know, then challenging experiences and also the gift that came from those experiences and also the positive experiences, all of it. You know, it's all available to us. And like I said, now with this Scorpio season approaching and Venus being in Sagittarius, which is impacting, you know, Jupiter is impacting Venus, and, you know, this takes us back to, you know, Mercury being in Scorpio, and that takes us back to Pluto and blah, blah, blah. You know, we can see how everything is connected again. Is the opportunity to use these tools to make different choices so the past can once and for all, that book can be closed, that chapter can be closed. It can be healed, integrated, and released back to the source, so it doesn't have to keep being recreated over and over again. Like, how many of us really would like to have that same awful experience again, you know, when we are having it, like, oh my god, why me again, you know, or why this again, you know? Like, we just want to grow and evolve, and hopefully potentially through different experiences, through more expansive, and, you know, it's not always going to be easy. It doesn't mean that, oh yeah, Age of Aquarius is everything's gonna be just you know, hunky-dory now and rainbows and butterflies everywhere. Like, no, but we don't have to keep growing and evolving through the same experiences for thousands of years, right? We can choose different experiences now because the level of consciousness has risen, we evolved, and now we're ready for the next step, you know, for the next stage of our evolution. Just like I am sure that I personally feel that I am ready for the next step of my journey. I don't need to keep recreating these same patterns. And, you know, now I also, as I mentioned in my previous practical application of astrology that I recorded in US, I reevaluated my stories, you know, like, and the BS that I tell myself about, oh, I don't need this, I don't like that, you know, no, I'm quite happy with what I got, blah, 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 blah. And then realizing that, oh, you know, I'm living a life half lived because I put it myself in my cage, you know, golden cage. It's, you know, it's a comfortable cage, don't get me wrong. But like, yeah, then when universe presents this different opportunity, different experience, and I remember that, oh yeah, I like this experience when it lasts. Oh, and now I also remember why I convinced myself I don't need this experience because of the trauma, sorrow, and grief attached to that experience, or the after effects of that experience. You know, it doesn't always have to be like that. We don't have to keep recreating this self-fulfilling prophecy story, because we can change the story. All of us have the power to change the story, but in order to change the story, we have to re-experience some of the story, so we know what it is that we experience and we are running on, you know, subconsciously, what is the story that is running in our, you know, in our memory bank, and then we can change it, right? So this is I guess what probably a lot of us are going through, you know. So okay guys, I'm gonna leave it at that because I'm just going in circles, and it is really the same message, you know. I don't really have anything very incredibly wise to share with you. I'm just dealing with the after effects of what I've gone through and trying to observe and integrate it and heal what I can, at the same time observing the resistance to certain aspect of this discomfort or healing. And yeah, just being present, being conscious about how this is showing up for me, and also trying to catch myself when I go into my default behavior and like, no, you don't want to go down that way again. you know where that's gonna lead. So anyway, so I hope that perhaps some of this resonated, perhaps some of this shines some light onto what you might be experiencing. And if you are experiencing difficulties and challenges, trust me, I feel you. And this is another thing, last thing I'm gonna say, that Spirit usually does this, you know, to me, for me, that it puts me through something that is emotionally challenging, so I know what it feels like. So I know what it feels like, because my life is, it's very easy to have this detached, higher perspective existence of Aquarian perception. Sorry, another interruption. So yeah, it is very, very easy for me to just look at things from higher perspective and detach, and just, you know, just to not have the human experience. That's very easy for me. But it is not so easy for me to be a human and have a human experience, and also be able to understand fully when there is a lot of human stuff going on in someone's life, because I am trying to avoid that. Hand on heart, like, okay, no, I made the choices I did because it's safe, you know, it doesn't require me to get too emotionally dysregulated. And then universe sends a carrot, you know, it sends a carrot that looks so appealing that it goes like, oh, she's not gonna resist this one, you know. And then yeah, and then the heart cracks open, and we know that this is how the lights enter you. And the other aspect of it is that this is how then I understand, because I feel not necessarily the same thing you feel, but I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to experience sorrow or grief or abandonment or loss or betrayal or whatever, you know. So otherwise it's just a theory, right? And it's easy to talk when you are not in that situation. So when I'm in the situation, then Spirit goes, oh yeah, now you know how it feels. So anyway, so yeah, if you're going through something difficult, I'm not saying I know how you feel, because you are having your own experience and you feel whatever you feel, which is unique to you. But I know I understand and I feel some of the flavors. I don't know what is the right word, of the challenging aspects of being human, okay? So anyway, guys, I leave it at that. 41 minutes in. I'm sending everybody much love. Have a great weekend. I will be recording my astrological forecast probably tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And until next time, much love everyone, and bye for now.